So the way we're all raised, we're taught to prioritize short-term gain over all else, right? And a couple of years ago, I switched up this mindset. And I think it's been one of the most beneficial things for my life, not only in, my experiences day to day and my own happiness, my own well-being, but also in terms of just my success at things, right? And I want to share a little bit of this perspective. I'm going to use the games of chess and Go as an analogy. For those of you who don't know, chess is obviously I believe it comes from India, but it's a largely Western game where you play pieces, you're trying to get the other side's king, right? Go, on the other hand, is a game that comes, I believe it's Chinese originally, and it's all about you have different colored pieces and you're trying to encircle the other person's pieces, right? So two very different objectives come with these games, right? In Go, you are trying to you're trying to build your own thing, right? You're trying to build a large, sustainable form that takes the other person's. In chess, it's all about going forward and attacking. And I think these two games taught me a lot about mindset, right? I feel like it's the corniest thing on earth at this point to be like, chess can teach you about mindset. But it can, right? And it teaches you about mindset in a very specific way, like a very linear building block sort of way. I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and it doesn't matter what my pieces look like by the end of it, as long as their king is down. Right? That's kind of what chess looks like. Of course, there are far more complicated strategies. This is a gross oversimplification of the game, but largely the point is just get them. It does not matter what happens with you. Go is a game though that to get good at it, and I'm terrible at it. I'm awful at Go. I can barely play it, honestly. To win at Go, to succeed, you need to learn how to build your own thing, right? You need to learn how to plant traps far, far ahead. And while some of these skills are also present in chess, it really is a whole different skill set that's encouraged in this game. It's a game that's more built around long-term building. Games of Go can last far longer than games of chess can because they're all about that, right? It's not a perfect analogy here, by the way, but it's one that's helped me a lot. And looking at my life through the lens of Go rather than chess has easily been one of the most beneficial things, honestly, just ever to me. Because I think so much of your life you're taught, like, look forward to the next year, maybe 4. You're in high school, what's the goal of high school? It's to learn a skill or do really well in high school and excel at something that will get you into college, right? College is the goal. College, you get there. What's the goal of college? Do well in your classes so you can get some internships, get those internships, do well in those, and go on to work at a good company, right? In high school, you're thinking 4 years ahead. In college, you're thinking 4 years ahead. And then, I think what happens with a lot of people is they get out and they're like, okay, I did it. And then it's like, something's still kind of missing, right? Like, oftentimes it'll feel that way, that something's really missing in the way that they went about things, and they feel a little bit empty. This is definitely an experience I myself went through, right? I think that this is because, as much as, focusing on something 4 years out is by no means a short-term thing. That's definitely not like, you're not planning for tomorrow. You're not saying I'm going to get into college tomorrow. You're saying 4 years from now. 4 years, it's a decent amount of time. But imagine instead an alternative view where instead of looking at 4 years, you in high school said, I want to build something that will last forever. That's like crazy, right? You're young, you can't do that. But you totally can at the same time. It's not through waking up one day and just being like, I'm going to build, a Fortune 500 company that can last 100 years and ends up being the next Standard Oil. Like, that's not at all what I'm recommending. But waking up one day and going, I have an interest in this thing, I want to pursue this passion, and building upon that will lead you somewhere, right? It will lead you likely to a better place than instead focusing on just getting good at some random thing to get into college and then doing good in college to get a job, right? If instead you said, I'm going to try and adopt a skill, adopt a thing that's going to benefit me for the rest of my life. Maybe that skill could be writing. Maybe you really want to focus on writing. Well, if you do that, and then maybe because of that, you happen to get into a good college for writing and you focus on writing even more by then, you'll still be on the same path, but your skill of writing will never go away, right? And I think this mindset, when making decisions, when doing everything, has truly just benefited me so much. If I have the option from going like, I'm going to do something that's like solid, that's going to benefit me tomorrow, or I can do something that like is a little bit weirder, it's a little bit riskier, you know, could not pan out, but it really could pan out at the same time, and it could benefit me years down the line. I'll always choose the second option. It's like a guiding thing of mine at this point, right? And I'm not trying to say that it's gotten me, you know, to the top of the world yet. That's not the point of it. That's kind of antithetical to the whole idea of it, of course. The goal is not to get to the top of the world with it at all. The goal is to build something with it, right? And having that mindset in mind, building your own skills and just looking fully far out ahead has never failed me yet. It is not, ever since the shift in mindset of understanding like this is a long-term project, it has totally transformed my life, transformed the way I do things, it transforms the amount of care I put into things, because even down to like something very simple, right? I'm gonna use these paintings as a metaphor. You guys watch me paint these, obviously, and these are all short-term goals, every single one of these paintings. I get in this cube that I have here, there's a liminal tan space, and I go, you know, I'm gonna paint whatever. I have between 10 and 30 minutes, and I just spit out whatever's on my mind, whatever I'm feeling that day. Sometimes I go in with no plan at all, and that causes me to make certain decisions with this painting, right? Right now, I didn't have a perfect hue of blue down, so I just took a little black on my thing and I dabbed it into the blue here, and that's why I'm using this color now. If I wasn't doing that, if I was saying like I'm going to return to this painting in 3 days, maybe I wouldn't do that. Maybe I'd focus on a different part of the painting and go, I'll return to that blue when I do mix that right blue, right? Obviously this is a stupid example. A painting it doesn't matter whether this painting is good or not. It's just for fun. But the point still remains that when you're focusing on something in the long term, you are going to be more careful. You're going to allow it a little more time to be what you really want it to be. Whereas when you focus on something in the short term, you're focused more on the fact that you have a little time to do it, and the fact that you need to finish that thing, right? I know, and to go back to the example of schooling, right, because I think it's a pretty relevant one here. I know so many people that like in high school, they had the opportunity to really get good at something. Like they were like, I feel like I'm an amazing writer, but they never actually took the time to sit down and learn how to write well or like really develop their own thing because they were so focused all the time on writing these papers, writing for school, writing for the rubric so they could get good grades. You know, maybe the next Hemingway was in one of my classes and all they had to do was break off from the rubric once and really try their own style to figure that out. Maybe they just had to risk the bad grade. But they weren't willing to do that because they knew that in 4 years, that risking of a bad grade would lead to a bad effect, right? They weren't focused on a long-term project of investing in their writing. They were focused on tomorrow. They were focused on what does tomorrow look like? How do I get into this school? How do I do this thing? And because of that, who knows, you know, maybe nothing changed. But there's also the side that makes me think like, maybe that mindset made us lose somebody that could have been very talented at something. This is why I think that in all regards, viewing life as a long-term project, going against these short-term bursts is just the right thing to do. I think it's going to get you so much farther. I also see like sort of an alternation on this idea that's very popular now, like a dopamine detox, right? People like get off social media for a week so you don't feel the dopamine hits or whatever, and you're rewired to do hard things. And I mean, I like the sentiment. I think we could all probably benefit from getting off our phones for a week. I'm definitely not against that. But at the same time, even a lot of these people, they pair this dopamine detox to the idea of like, you know, work on a project like a business or something. And even something like that, going like, I'm going to work for years on a business to hopefully make money in 4 years. Even that is not thinking quite as long term as like, what's something I'm passionate about that I can invest in? I think that's a much better question to ask, because I think in asking a question like that, you actually find something. Yeah, sure, maybe it will make you rich in a year. You know, very few things will. A lot of these people thinking that they're going to or not going to at all. But it's something that when those times are up, when you're saying like, because what I see a lot is like 6 months until you're a millionaire if you do this thing, right? It's oldest trick in the book when you're trying to scam somebody. What I see very often is people look at that and they go, okay, all I have to do is put my head down for 4 years and I can be X thing. And instead, I think just the idea of I'm going to pursue what I want forever is the much better idea, because maybe you don't have your head down all the time. But if you're in the game forever, you're gonna have your head down more than the other person for sure. You know, because what happens to all these people when they're thinking in terms of 4 years, and then it doesn't happen? You know, when they're thinking in terms of X number of years and it doesn't happen. And now they're sitting there with nothing because all they were focused on was building one thing in 4 years instead of just building something eventually, right? And I just think that's much better. On the other hand, there's the argument that, like, you don't have that much time. Like, who has the time to spend their entire, like, let's say you want to build something, you want to invest in a skill maybe, right? Because the whole logic of, like, if you fail after these 4 years trying to build your thing, at least you have that skill still, right? The other person might say, like, life's not long enough to do that. You don't have that much time. You got to get rich in the next 5 years. Maybe that's right. It could be, but I can't help but think, like, if you actually just pursue a skill, maybe you won't be rich in 5 years, but I think the guy pursuing something they love indefinitely, it's higher chance of being successful in whatever regard success looks like. We're using the example of being rich here, but it could really be anything. I think that person's going to be a lot better off forever. I really do. I think they'll probably make it faster. I think they'll do better. Because if they're trying to just build something they actually care about, build something they love, the power that comes from that is so much better than the power of any short-term reward, right? Be that money, be that something else, And this idea of being super successful, it's... On the one hand, I really like it, to be honest. I like the idea of being super successful. I do like the idea of, like, a world that motivates people to be something crazy and cool. I think that's an awesome idea, right? Something super romantic about it. But on the other side of things, it's like, if that success is defined by money to spend on something that's going to make you happy for a little while, that's not really success, right? I think we could define success better by being maybe the best at something, right? Whatever that means to you. You could want to be the best painter on earth. Maybe the best painter to you looks like the difference between the best painter and somebody else. Striving for something like that, though, a long-term thing, something that's of real substance, rather than something that's just going to be, 2 years from now, have X, is always going to be better, in my opinion. And I think that mindset shift it's a subtle process of decision-making, a very subtle shift in the way you do things. That, I think, makes all the difference in life. I think it'll make your mental state much better if you're not striving to be the most successful person on earth the next year. And I genuinely think it leads to you just making decisions that are going to be more beneficial to you, more beneficial than you could ever know. So that's my take. That's my take on that whole thing. This is the painting. I kind of alluded to this earlier. I really just went in with no plan today, and it ended up being this. I don't know. I don't mind it. Like, it's cool. I don't really know what I did here. Like, it's a person, of course. I just kind of, like, went in and was doing whatever I was feeling like. I mean, I'm roughing out form, and this is form. Like, that's the goal here. So it's a success in that regard. And honestly, I haven't tried to paint a full person in a while in, like, just a traditional sense. This is my first time doing that. Since I wasn't planning on it, you're supposed to go from, like, shadows first into, like, the light shades. I didn't do that here because I didn't even know what I was painting when I first went in. So because of that, this is a little janky. But honestly, I mean, as far as just getting form down, which has been the goal of this series, good practice here. I mean, good experiment. It came out better than a lot of the others. So yeah, that's all I got for you today, folks. My apologies. I feel like I didn't do as well sharing my ideas as I usually do. Or rather, as well as I wanted to. This is something I think about a lot. This is an idea like I do care about, and I feel like I have more. That's the thing, is like it's always when I have an idea, I feel like I have more points for that. I end up sharing it so much worse than all the others. So maybe I'm just getting in my head a little bit here, but either way, hope you got something out of this. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 257, 258. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.